Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number LB4310-350-652. This is a single acting spring hinge from Bommer. The LB, let's dissect the part number. The LB stands for lube bearing. It's a maintenance-free sort of concealed bearing construction from Bommer. The 4310 is a reference to a number of things. First of all, it refers to the fact that the corner is square, that the thickness of the leaf is residential in thickness, which means 96 thousandths of an inch. It means that the specific locations of the holes are considered template. So if it's a 4310, it's going to be square corner, 96 thousandths, template pattern on the screw holes. The -350 stands for the fact that this hinge is 3.5 tall, and the height is always the first dimension on hinges like this, and 3.5 inch wide. The 652 means two things. It means, first of all, that it's made of steel, and that it is in a satin chrome finish. This is a very common spring hinge because it's 3.5 inch, it's residential weight, it's square corner. You're going to use this on 1 3/8 residential doors is really where you'll see this sort of hinge. You might have, bedroom doors, that are unoccupied, and you just want to have the door just close behind you, just for the very fact of not having to heat it as much. Whatever the case might be, why you would want a spring hinge on a residential door, this is very commonly what you're going to need. There is a link below this video to the template, which shows everything important dimensionally about this hinge, so I won't beleaguer all those points here, except to say that this is indeed a full mortise hinge, meaning that when the hinge leaves are brought parallel, they are meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame. This hinge is compatible with the vertical axis of pivoting of typical standard 3.5 inch hinges, so you would be able to mix and match these with regular hinges. The link to the template is handy because it allows you to see the specific location of those screw holes so that you can determine if this is the proper hinge for your replacement, or if it's meets the requirements that you have for the specific installation that you're doing. Being a spring hinge, that means that it's going to be self-closing naturally. This would be a single acting hinge. Non-handed, can be used for either left hand or right hand sort of installations. There is a link below this video to the installation instructions, and they are, should your order come in a box, and they generally do, but not always, they're printed on the back of the box. And basically what it says is how many hinges you need given the door size and weight that you're going to be encountering. So a hinge like this, you're really looking at a door not larger than 3 foot by 7 foot. You're looking at a door that's typically not greater than 110 pounds, and in that event you'd certainly want all 3 hinges, or 85 pounds for 2 hinges. Now I'm a fan of all spring hinges, and it's not really at all for the obvious reason, but it's more so for the fact that having installed spring hinges, set them, adjusted them, modified them over time, meaning the conditions that you'll have in springtime are different than the middle of winter and summer as well. When you have more spring hinges on a door rather than less, what you're accomplishing is a better, more predictable and reliable door operation. Meaning a spring hinge, when you set the tension on that, we'll go over that in a moment, when you open the door, it stores energy in that spring. As the door is at, let's say, 90 degrees, and you release it, that stored energy is released and the door begins to close. But that spring hinge has to overcome a lot of obstacles to get that door moving. The weight of the door, air pressure, the fact that there's going to be resistance as the door is going through the closing cycle, resistance of the latch bolt hitting the strike plate when the door gets to latch. And I have found that when you have more spring hinges rather than less, the greater amount of stored energy is such that you can set that hinge so that it will begin to close and latch, most importantly, without it slamming or having to set the tension so high in the spring hinge that you run the risk of hearing it creak as you open it, well, that's the spring actually contorting, usually. Sometimes it's just the fact that the hinge might be several years old, and just surface oxidation on the spring makes it creak, of which you can lubricate that by getting lubricant down in that those knuckles, so to speak. Greater spring power stored is like a tugboat. They don't go very fast, but they can pull a lot of weight. And that's the analogy I use for getting a door to reliably close, because what you need to be able to do is not only close the door, but surely you want it to latch. And having one spring hinge when two would be better, or having two when three would be better, is that exact sort of scenario. If this is a hollow core door that's 2'8" by 6'8", I could not imagine how you would need 3 spring hinges. But when you get into solid core doors and exterior applications, certainly, you're going to want to consider having more spring power. Now, I'm not a fan at all of spring hinges doing the job of actually closing a door. I don't believe it's the proper hardware for the job. But the reality is that there are times, many times, when a spring hinge is the only piece of hardware that can be used to get the door to close. I prefer hydraulic control over a door, like a door closer. But you're not going to install a surface-mounted door closer on your bedroom door. You just want the door to close. That's all there is to it. You'll find greater success when you've got more spring hinges rather than less. You can certainly always add them later on should that prove to be true. Now, with every hinge that you buy, you're certainly going to get a tension pin. That's that little piece of steel that's there. And you'll also, with every order, get at least one tension rod. Now, what happens is when you install this, you will install it so that the tension collar, which is this piece of material here, pointed towards the top. You'll insert your tension pin into the collar and turn it clockwise. And as you do so, as you can see, you reveal new additional holes. It's into one of those new holes, and don't exceed 3 that you'll insert the tension pin. And that's how you go about setting the tension. Put a pin into the first hole, test your door operation. Likely very little will happen. Set it again. Test it. Do that to both hinges, or all 3, or the one that you've installed. And continue to test your operation so that you get the performance out of it that you are looking for. Screws are included, by the way, in a complimentary finish. Okay. There is also a link below this video to the certifications of this hinge, which is really just a technical document about spring hinges. Does also give you that guideline for how many spring hinges based on the weight of the door, the size of the door, etc. The most, in my opinion, important information to know about this spring hinge is how to set it, which is tucked down on that installation link. Very simple that we've gone over. You can certainly install that with the tension collar down. You'll just turn it counterclockwise. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo, and right above it says Made in USA. That's a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer, number LB4310-350-652 single acting spring hinge, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.